All right, let's get right into it. You know how sometimes the answer you get to a big question has everything to do with how you asked it in the first place? It's wild, right? The way you frame it, your first step, that can change the entire outcome. Today, we're going to break down the art of finding answers, just like a real researcher would.
We all have them. It could be a huge challenge at work, a scientific puzzle, or maybe just some nagging problem you can't seem to solve. We're all looking for answers, all the time. But the real question is, where do you even begin?
And that right there is the whole secret. There isn't just one single path to a solution. The road you take from the very beginning, that's what's going to shape your entire journey, and ultimately, the kind of answer you find at the end. So, to make this all feel a bit more real, let's follow a manager who's staring down a classic business puzzle. We're going to watch how three totally different ways of thinking can be used to tackle the very same problem.
Okay, so here's our mystery. A retail store is just getting hammered by high employee absenteeism. I mean, it's a super common problem, right? But the solution? Well, that's anything but simple. This is the question our manager has got to answer.
So put yourself in their shoes. You're the manager. What's your first move? Do you jump into the data? Do you start talking to people? Or do you go with a hunch? Let's check out that first option.
Let's meet our first problem solver. We'll call them the top-down detective. This person uses a method called deduction, and just like the name says, they start at the very top with a big idea and work their way down. So deduction is all about theory first, evidence second. You start with a general belief, a theory about how you think things work, and then you go out into the world looking for specific facts to see if your theory actually holds water. So our top-down detective already has a hunch, a hypothesis. Maybe they've read some studies. They think, you know what? I bet absenteeism is higher among younger workers who haven't been with us very long. See how specific that is? It's totally testable. Their whole investigation is now going to be about proving or disproving that one single idea. And the process itself is super structured, almost like a recipe. You form your hypothesis, you figure out how to test it, you collect the data, and then you look at the results. If the numbers don't add up, your theory's wrong. It's back to the drawing board. If they do match, well, your theory lives to see another day. It's a very neat, very logical process.
But, and this is a big but, here's the potential problem. Deduction can be so focused on proving a theory right or wrong that it completely misses the human story behind the numbers. Critics say you might find a link between two things, but you have no idea why that link exists. You miss the messy, complicated social world people are actually living in. What if the real problem is something you never even thought to test?
And that question leads us directly to our second problem solver, the ground-up investigator. This approach, called induction, basically flips the whole script on its head. With induction, the theory comes last. You don't start with a big idea. You start with a blank slate, an open mind, and you just start gathering clues, observations, conversations, specific little details, and you build your theory from the ground up. So our ground-up investigator, they walk into that same retail store with no preconceived ideas. They just start talking to people, interviewing employees, chatting with managers, listening to their stories, their frustrations, their experiences. They're just collecting clues, trying to understand the world from their perspective. And that is the absolute key here. With induction, the theory is the final product, not the starting point. It's all about discovery. So after listening to all those stories, our investigator might find out the problem has nothing to do with age. Maybe it's about childcare issues or confusing schedules, or maybe a manager who's hard to work with. The answer literally emerges from the data itself. Okay, so we've got the top-down detective and the ground-up investigator. But what if you could combine the best of both worlds? Well, that's where our third and final approach comes in. And it's got a pretty cool nickname, the Sherlock Holmes method. Abduction is all about being flexible and, honestly, just practical. It usually kicks off with a surprising fact, something that just doesn't quite add up. And from there, the investigator starts moving back and forth, gathering a few clues, coming up with a mini theory, testing that theory with a few more clues, tweaking the theory, and they keep repeating that cycle until the most likely explanation starts to take shape. So think of it this way. It's not a rigid one-way street like the other two can be. It's more like a creative dance between the evidence you're seeing and the theories you're forming in your head. Just like Sherlock, you're constantly updating your ideas as new clues come in. All right, so let's put these three side by side. This table really breaks it down for us. Just look at that data use row for a second. Deduction uses data to test a theory that's already there.
Induction uses data to create a brand new theory. But abduction? It does it all. It uses data to explore, to create, and to test a theory. The goal isn't just to prove something right or wrong anymore. It's about genuine discovery.
Okay, so you've now got these three powerful tools in your problem-solving toolkit. The big question is, which one do you pick? How do you choose the right approach for your problem? Well, it really boils down to a couple of really practical things.
First up, a reality we all live with. The clock is ticking. How much time do you actually have to solve this thing? Look, if you're on a tight deadline, deduction is often your friend because it's so structured, it's way more predictable. Induction and abduction, though, they are true explorations. You honestly never know where the clues might lead you or how long it's going to take to find the answer. But it's not just about time. You also have to think about your starting point. I mean, are you walking into a field where the map has already been drawn? Or are you stepping into completely uncharted territory? Here's a pretty simple guide. If there's already a ton of research out there on your topic, well, you've got a great foundation for deduction. But if the topic is brand new and nobody's really looked at it, induction is perfect for that. It lets you draw the first map. And if you think an old theory is mostly right but just needs a little tweaking, the flexibility of abduction is going to be ideal. So the next time you're facing down a really complex problem, just remember this. The answer isn't just a thing you find, it's something that gets created by the journey you take to find it. By thinking about your approach ahead of time, you're not just solving a problem, you are literally shaping the kind of solution you're going to get. So which one are you? The detective, the investigator, or the Sherlock Holmes? The choice is yours.